Welcome to It's Not Really About Dance, a podcast on all the things we're learning about raising healthy, happy, and wholesome kids and teenagers in today's world through the context of competitive dance. I'm Beth.
And I'm Sarah, and we believe that competitive kids activities are about way more than performance or awards. They're about teaching resilience, humility, confidence, and heart. Each episode will use the context of dance to dive into real talk, practical tips, and stories to inspire you to parent with purpose. Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to It's Not Really About Dance. It is episode 3, and if you've listened to our first 2 episodes, you've had a chance to get to know us a little bit better and hear our stories about how we ended up in this context of parenting our kids through competitive dance. And now we want to make this episode a little bit more about our real why. So there are actually a ton of really great dance podcasts out there that really dive deep into the world of competitive dance, and even some that are specifically for dance parents. And we have a few of those that we really love and listen to regularly. I'm sure sometime along the way here that we'll share those podcasts with you. That would be a really fun episode for us to talk about some of the podcasts that shaped us and inspired us on our journey to get to making our own podcast. But we felt like we were having so many conversations between ourselves and with other parents kind of in this same competitive dance and competitive sports world about things that weren't specifically dance related. So that's really where the heart of where we're going with this podcast is. And we wanted to share a little bit deeper of that with you today.
Yes, and just kind of like a teaser for all of this, we thought that today we might start out with each of us giving just a top 3 of the conversations that we have found ourselves having with our kids that have come out of being in this dance world and that we may not have had if we were not in that context or in some sort of competitive context like that. So we both spend a lot of time, again, we've shared before, like in school, church type settings where there are opportunities for kids to interact with each other and to have conversations around like what's going on with them. And there are some things though that just really come up because of this being a more competitive type environment. And it just puts things right up in your face that you might not have had in other contexts. So we are going to dive into what some of those are. So we're going to let each of us just share our top 3. And should we just you go ahead and just do your 3 and then we can talk about them and then I'll do mine after that. Does that sound good, Sarah?
That sounds great. So the top 3 things that I think have been the biggest impact, whether that is on my dancers personally or that I've had these same conversations with other parents when their kid has gone through something similar. The first one is that even when you work really hard and you do your absolute very best, sometimes you still don't get picked. Despite your best effort, it still just might not be your time. And that just means that you weren't the person they were looking for whatever that thing is, whether it's a specific dance role or a spot on a team. And that does not reflect on your value as a person and who you are. My second favorite one is kind of related to that in that you can still be happy for yourself and sad for someone else at the same time, and vice versa. It is possible to hold both of those feelings at the same time, though that is really complicated for kids especially. I think the reverse is even harder. When you're sad for yourself, when you didn't get something you wanted, but your friend did, and you're excited for them too. And then the third thing that, man, I feel like I tell my teenager this all the time, but fueling your body to live a healthy lifestyle, and that doesn't necessarily just mean the food that you eat, although it does, but that also means sleep, taking time to rest, time management. I mean, balancing their homework and their busy schedules, food choices that give them enough energy to get through a dance day or a competition weekend, even things like their strength or their flexibility. All of these things are so important because your body cannot function if you do not give it what it needs.
So why don't you tell us like a little more about those? Like kind of unpack it a little bit, maybe. Can you think of a time that you've experienced this, maybe like with one of your children not getting picked for something, even though they like worked really hard for it? And I mean, that feels really disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, this is a great example. So my older daughter was really wanting to be cast as Clara in Nutcracker. Our studio does Nutcracker every year. It's a huge deal. They do 3 casts so basically 3 girls in the whole studio get to be Clara, which is a very small number of people that have the opportunity to do that.
Because we have a fairly large studio.
Yes. And my oldest daughter is tall, and she knew that really last year was probably the last year that she would even be eligible, just because she looks older than she is. And a lot of it is who can fit in the costume at that time of year type thing.
There are just so many factors.
Yes.
I think there are factors that you and I don't know about beyond even the ones that we can pick up on.
I'm sure. And although she certainly did not expect it or think that she like had it in the bag or anything like that, she just sort of knew that it was her last chance, that it was even on the table for her. And so when casting came out and she saw that she wasn't Clara, that was rough. I mean, that was hard for her. She had worked really hard in dance the entire previous year. You know, she'd made some huge gains as far as what company she was dancing with and getting moved up a little bit and things like that. And it was really challenging for her to also kind of the second thing too about being happy and sad at the same time. She loved the role that she did get. She would still tell you that was her favorite thing that she's been in Nutcracker. But in that moment when she first realized that she wasn't going to be Clara, that was really disappointing. And we did have to have some conversations about like, that does not mean that she isn't a good dancer or that someone at the studio who is doing casting doesn't think she could do it or that she couldn't do it. She wasn't right for the role, and that's okay. It does not impact who she is or even her skill level or talent level or anything like that. So we really worked through that together, and she came out better for it. And like I said, absolutely loved the role that she had and still felt special and wonderful about the whole thing.
And that's a great example of one of these life lessons, because that's not one of those things that's like, if we just didn't do dance, then maybe my kid wouldn't have to be disappointed. Like, no matter where you go, that is going to exist in some version.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
When you're getting a job,
yes.
When you're grown, sometimes you work super hard and you are very deserving of something, but you didn't get it for just factors beyond your control.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
So I love that we get to work through these kinds of things with our kids when they are young and living under our roofs. And that's probably what's true about everything we're going to say today. For much of this series and this podcast that we're doing, it's going to be like that. So that's good. Awesome. What about the fueling your body kind of thing? Like anything in particular that's come up with in the dance world that you just had this context kind of brought it to a head in a way that it wouldn't have otherwise?
Yes. So, I mean, I think 2 places. Number one being like those competition weekends. We touched on this a little bit in the last episode when we were kind of laughing about not giving our kids the right kind of food. It is so tempting for them when they're with their friends to just want to like throw back some Starbucks refreshers and eat a bunch of candy, and then they will crash and feel terrible. And that has happened to both of my dancers before because they just were snacking in the dressing room and were only eating, you know, M&Ms or whatever Sour Patch candy their friend had in their backpack, and they didn't eat any of the heartier, like more protein filled stuff that we had. And they didn't perform as well. And ultimately, they felt bad at the end of the night because they had no energy. And the other side of that I don't think we would really have encountered if it weren't for being in this competitive dance world is just the time management aspect of it. I mean, they are at the studio. Someone is up there every single day of the week. And as they get older, especially my older dancer, I mean, she's at the studio till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night every night.
And reminder, if you are new to this thing and you're listening, as we shared on the last episode, it took us a long time to get to this point. Yes. Like when we started, we were not there every day of the week, and we were not there till 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night. That comes at a point when you grow into that. But yes.
And my younger daughter is not at the studio that late. I mean, she's done by 6:45, I think, is her latest night. But as they get older and they're up there more and they have heavier homework loads and more expectation on things that they have to do outside of school, learning that time management, and she can't every day just come home and watch TV or get on her iPad. Like, she's learned, especially this year, that she has to come home and take care of any homework that she needs to do before she goes up to the dance studio, because she knows when she gets home, she's going to be tired and she's going to be ready to shower and go to bed. And she's not going to do as well on that schoolwork if she's not taking care of it earlier in the day. So that's kind of one of those lessons that she's had to figure out on her own, even though, when my husband and I try to tell her, it's one of those things like you get met back with a little bit of like, I know, and you can only push so much in those places. And there were a few times we just had to let go and say, you know what? Okay, if you make a bad grade on this because you made the choice not to manage your time well, that's a natural consequence. I mean, she is driven enough and cares enough about school and grades that is motivating to her to not make a bad grade. There have been some times that we had to just let her feel the stress of that because she didn't manage her time well and figure that out on her.
Sure. And I think it's played out with our teenagers, both of our teenagers, some, and starting to trickle down to our younger ones in the way the time management of like balancing your social life and your school and family and dance. Like, we have like these different spheres of our lives, and some adults still don't have this worked out.
Yeah.
But we like to keep some healthy rhythms in our family, and that's something that's really important to us, to like carve out time for rest. And I think our kids spend a lot of time doing this activity that they love. Then they feel like they want to try and do any social things that they can. And so they're trying to say yes to all the things sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
And
it's too much.
Your body cannot handle that.
Right.
You have to rest at times. And so we've definitely had lots of conversations at our house. I think you have too.
Yes, for sure.
About making choices about, we don't just say yes to everything.
And especially because they are at the dance studio so much, there have been so many things, that social things or, birthday parties on a Friday night, that they have had to say no to because they had dance obligations. And there is a line of finding the balance between still letting them be kids and holding dance in a healthy place in their life. I think that's true of all competitive activities, making sure that it is not the thing that dictates the schedule completely and what your family does. Like you said, building in some healthy rhythms. And we try to model, we don't always do a great job, me especially, but we try to model that for them and building time to rest for ourselves. And that doesn't have to look like I'm laying in the bed resting.
Sure.
Like, whatever is restful to me or helps give me energy or just something that I enjoy doing that doesn't make me tired is restful. So trying to help them learn those rhythms.
Yeah, I've heard the expression, like, those of us who work with our bodies, we have to rest with our minds, like by being kind of like, doing a puzzle or something quiet, reading a book, watching something. But those of us who work with our minds rest with our bodies. And so for me, like, my job is very mind driven. So rest for me is like actually going out and moving and doing something. And so, it doesn't mean like laying around in bed, like you said, but just finding the thing that replenishes you.
Yes. I mean, cleaning out a closet makes me feel like I'm on top of the world. Like, that is not physically restful, but it is something that does, like you, my work is very thinking heavy and problem solving and thinking ahead of things, but it does feel like almost mindless and productive if I can just like organize a closet.
The same. We're wired a lot the same ways.
Yes.
So yes, for sure.
What are your top lessons or the most important ones you feel like you have navigated yourself or with your dancers?
I think one of them is that someone else's success doesn't mean your failure.
That's good.
Like, we can celebrate everybody being great. There's plenty of room for greatness to go around.
Greatness is not pie. You won't run out.
Right. And what's really beautiful, and I've watched this actually play out in real time, is so my girls being 3 different ages, naturally, I mean, there's just different personalities around our studio. And so them being in different little kind of circles of groups of people just means like their little groups they dance with have kind of different personalities. So it's been really neat to watch that play out over time, and just like the things we learn with one kid versus another because of just who they're surrounded by can be really interesting. But one of my daughters has ended up in a pocket of just very talented kids who don't feel the need to like steal the stage from each other or steal energy from each other, but rather they like uplift each other. And what has happened is like it just makes them exponentially better. They have amazing stage chemistry. They like when they get out there and compete or they perform, people are just captivated by them because they aren't trying to out dance each other. They're trying to like help each other shine. And I mean, we've had the benefit also of just some great choreographers who have laid the foundation for that for them and just helped them have experiences where like everybody gets a turn to shine within the art pieces that we create. And so that's been really cool to watch. But I've also seen the other side of it where like if there's a group of kids that are together and like they feel competitive with each other, like they want to be better than each other, or they get jealous when somebody else gets a part that they didn't. It honestly, like, it stifles everybody's success.
Well, it's that teamwork mentality. I mean, everyone, if one person is successful, then that helps your whole team. And if people are not at their best, then that brings your whole team down.
Right. And so the more they can get behind each other and do the thing that my youngest has been doing of like who got called out that we referenced in the last episode, and just applauding each other and celebrating each other. The older they get, the more they start to see everybody's wired differently and everybody has unique little things that they shine. And it's just so fun to watch that all unfold when they can kind of get past the hump, because it's very normal in the ages. Like I'd say the worst of it is probably ages like, I don't know, like 9 to 12 kind of. Yeah. Like they do sort of start to look side to side and like pay attention to like that person got something I didn't get. It's just a natural part of growth. And we'll talk a lot more about this down the road, I'm sure. But like when they get over that hump, it's really amazing when they can just like thrive and fly. And I think that's also a life lesson of going, again, in life, letting other people shine does not take away from my ability to shine. It just means we can both be great.
Yes. And I think that as they get older and mature past some of that, and they've had more of an opportunity for those friendships to deepen, that's when they really start to lift each other up, because they care so deeply about each other that if their friend is hurting, they are hurting too. It's not a situation where they're using someone else's failure, so to speak, as an opportunity to get ahead. Like they hurt when their friends hurt, and they're excited when their friends are shining. I mean, I think there's maturity in that, but the longer they're together, another great thing about being in these competitive activities is that they have the opportunity to deepen these friendships because they're together all the time.
Yeah. Totally. That's good. Okay, so that's one. Another one for me has been that you can like find something that you really love and you're passionate about, and you can go for it, even if it's not what everybody around you is going for. I think like when kids are young, we sometimes can have this tendency, and I think it's appropriate to look for little tribes to be a part of. And there's a tendency for us to try and, as parents, sign our kids up for all the things that our friends are signing their kids up for, and like do it as a unit together and everything be group related. But in a competitive type activity like this, it just expedites the process of kids starting to see that like, they have different strengths and we can't all be on the same path. And so it could be as extreme as like you and your friend signed up and took dance together when you were little, and now your friend has discovered they don't like dance. They want to go play soccer, and you want to dance, and you're faced with this conflict of like, do I stick with my friend and go play soccer because I want to be with my friend, or do I stick with the thing that I've discovered, lights me up and makes me excited and brings me joy? And I think the sooner kids can start to discover the things that they're passionate about and that they're not going to be identical to everybody else, the more that they're able to do some of those things like celebrate other people's successes and really shine and thrive in the things that they're made to do. Because this is, again, going to be how life is. Like, most of the time, all of your best friends and you are not going to the same college. I mean, you sometimes might have a friend or two that you're definitely not all getting the same job. Like, you cannot just like go through life and do everything with your best friend the rest of your life. And so starting to learn how to find the things that are your path for you to explore. And I think it happens even within the dance circle. Like,
definitely.
That group I was referring to that one of my daughters is in, where they're all so talented, they're getting to an age where they're actually talented in different ways. And what they're choosing to pursue beyond the studio for, like, those extra steps that prepare them for the next thing, whether they're summer intensives or just additional training. Some of them are getting more into like the modeling side or the dance team track or the ballet track or the musical theater. And they just start to discover what makes them them. And I think it's been really fun to have this context to do that in.
That really digs into some identity stuff that I think that we maybe don't encounter naturally until we're a little bit older, more like college age, when you realize, you're not going to go to the same school as your best friends. Being in activities like this really give us an opportunity to teach our kids those lessons earlier than they might learn it otherwise.
Totally. And I'm here for all of that. Like, I really like that. And then the last one, this one is probably the messiest one, but the one that I feel maybe the most passionate about. And it's this expression. My kids could probably repeat this expression back. If we put this microphone on them, they could say this, because I feel like a broken record and I say this to them all the time. But it is this: when you hear something and you wonder if it's true, you have two choices. One is to confront the source of the topic and talk to that person about it. And two is to keep your mouth shut. But going and talking to your friends and speculating about what's going on is gossip, and it's not healthy, it's harmful, and it's not what we're going to do. And so I think you can face this in school and other contexts as well, but I do believe that when you're on a team like this, in a context where people are putting a lot of money into what they're doing and they're spending a lot of time and energy in these competitive activities, there's just space for that kind of stuff to brew. And we are not here for that. And it's been actually really healthy and good for me to be able to have those conversations with all three of my children. I say often that spring is dance rumor season. And I think it's because that's when, for our studio, it's when we're like opting in and out of things and signing up for all the upcoming things. And so the rumors just fly like a wildfire at that time of year about how things are changing or who's doing what and who's not doing what and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of other layers of stuff like that go on too, but I just have really spent a lot of time talking with my girls about how we're not going to engage in that. And what's been really beautiful is I have been able to, myself and with my daughters, have some times where they actually made the choice to confront the rumor.
Which that's the harder of the
with
two.
Whoever it was about. Usually the easier, not what they want to do, but the easier thing is I'm just going to, okay, whatever. If you say I have to keep my mouth shut, I'll keep my mouth shut. I won't talk about it with other people. I understand. I don't want to spread that. But to actually approach someone and say, hey, is this true? I've heard this. Like, it just creates a bridge and a trust, and we've been able to really love some people well. My own oldest daughter, in doing this, like creating a culture of this, she actually had someone come to her and say, like, hey, I heard you're quitting dance to do blah, 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 blah. And she was just mortified by it because she's like, where did that come from? I've never said those words. Like, and she was so grateful that that friend had like just asked her about it instead of like going and saying, oh, I heard that kid is quitting dance and like all this kind of stuff. And this sounds very harmless, and it is. There have been some that have not been harmless, though. I mean, we have just watched, honestly, some rumors manifest into existence because of conversations being had. And it has just been heartbreaking. And it's been really a good conversation for us to have with our kids.
I think that is a great reminder, because a lot of times when rumors like that get started, so much of it just comes from an innocent place of curiosity when you don't know, or you're wondering without any spite or meanness behind it, but it can so quickly get out of hand and become that as things start to circulate. So I love that you're teaching them to just step out in a little bit of vulnerability and directly ask that person. I'm sure that it's appreciated much more than if they continued to spread the rumor, even though it might be awkward for a minute in that conversation.
Right. And to your point, when my daughter was confronted, like about, I heard you're quitting dance, and she was mortified, but her next response was she needed to make sure that their teacher knew that she wasn't leaving. Because she was like, I don't want this to hurt my opportunities, for somebody to think I have my foot out the door. So she felt very harmed by it, even though it seemed like something really just casual and curious and innocent and that kind of thing.
And people just don't think it through all the way. It's so easy in the moment to just go to the next person who you feel like might have some little nugget of information. And it's easy to get swept up in that and not think through how it would impact the person that you're asking about. And
yes. And like, so my approach to this is, if I hear someone ask me a question that starts with, do you think they will?
Have you heard?
I immediately squash that. And I just, even if I have heard it or I like know something about this, like my response is always, they haven't shared that with us. You should ask so-and-so, because I just think it is the completely wrong approach to be asking a random person, have you heard this, or do you think they will? This speculation it's really a waste of our time.
Something that I think that is related to this that my kids could probably repeat is that you are not going to talk about someone unless they are there to defend themselves. Like, you cannot say something about somebody behind their back that you wouldn't also say with them standing right there beside you, where they could speak for themselves. It just isn't helpful or good.
Right. That's really good wisdom. Anyway, we have talked about this a good bit. You can tell that we feel kind of strongly about it, but we've already dubbed ourselves the drama extinguisher, so that tends to be our approach. Yes. Okay.
So a few of the things that kind of set us apart maybe from some other podcasts that might speak more directly into dance, competitive dance, or parenting, specifically dancers, that we've just found ourselves having a lot of conversations about, and that haven't been as in-depth maybe in other podcasts that we want to touch on. And the first is just kind of our frame of reference based on the part of the country that we live in and just the scope of what this world is like in our context. So we live in the Southeast United States. We're in a very highly educated area. It is a pretty suburban type setting. So while it's not a big city, it's not super small, but it's kind of like the 7 degrees of separation. Like everyone knows each other to an extent. So it's big-ish, but not really.
It's a weird, like, I see it as like sort of a like launch hub. And I don't know if this is only in recent years because the world is so connected and maybe it feels this way in other places too. But like where I grew up, I feel like everything was either connected to the big city that I lived right outside of, or it was just felt small town. But like here, we have people who are, like you said, highly educated, very talented in a million different spheres of life, and like nationally known and recognized for what they do, but they've chosen to live in this place because it is a great family type of setting. It's not like too big city kind of thing.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, because of that, the culture where we live can be very image based, a lot of pressure to keep up with the who's who in town, what neighborhood you live in, or who your family associates with. Very competitive culture regardless of what you're doing. I mean, the baseball team here, to get on the high school baseball team is crazy. I mean, all competitive kids sports are deeply competitive where we live. People refer to our area as like we sort of live in a bubble, which is true because our town is pretty unique and different versus the areas around us. I mean, we do have some really rural settings in our area, but we are just sort of protected in this strange bubble that is not big city, but has a lot of influential people that sort of can make it feel like that in a way.
Yes. So while in our dance competition sphere, we travel mostly to our events. They're not going to be held somewhere that we typically can sleep in our own bed. Like we will travel to all of these events just because we are a little bit separated from any major city, but we also aren't in like any kind of isolated small type setting. We still have multiple dance studios in our area that are all very great in their own ways. And so that's one thing, but it's not going to be at the level that you have in a large city where there are just like dozens or even hundreds of choices in that type of thing. If your child is competing in anything, whether it's, equestrian or swimming or gymnastics or baseball or dance or soccer, you have a very select number of organizations to break into that are within a reasonable range and at a reasonable talent level, if that makes sense.
Which leads to the competitive feel of a lot of those things.
Yes, for sure. So another thing that's going to kind of make and shape our podcast culture here and kind of the direction we're going is the fact that Sarah and I are both in professions that are focused on children and education and child development. It just gives us a lens into these things that's a little different from your typical parent, because we kind of look at things of like, there's an expression that I've used when I'm training my volunteers, actually, of just the difference between generalists and specialists in a kid's life. So like a generalist is someone who knows a child for their whole like childhood. That's like a parent, a family friend, that kind of thing that just knows the personality of that kid and
sees the whole picture.
The whole picture, yes. Whereas a specialist is someone who gets how that kid fits into the herd at this stage of life. And I feel like Sarah and I, because of what we do, have been trained to be specialists in like all the little stages of childhood. Even more so than like some teachers that teach just one grade, which they're like super specialists for their age group. I have a kindergarten teacher friend that I'm like, anytime I have like a weird thing going on with a very small child, I'm like, I'm going to need to talk to you about this. But for us, we both lead a span of ages. And so we're like kind of partial specialists for a lot of different ages, but it does give us a different perspective than just a parent in that we can like see how kids fit into what's normal, or I hate to say what's normal, but
what is it? What is a reasonable expectation for that kid at that stage of development?
Sure, exactly. Okay.
So the other thing that for us is probably going to affect the lens in which we approach some of these conversations is that our faith is a big part of our lives. Something else we've mentioned previously, Beth works in children's ministry. My husband is a pastor. And to be clear, it is not our intention for any episode of the podcast to feel like you are listening to a series of sermons. We are both just very relational people, and we love to have those conversations in really natural context. But we do want to put it out there that faith is a really big lens in which we just sort of naturally approach things in our lives, and especially things with our children as well. So we really want our character and the character of our children to be shaped into that faith. For us, that looks like pointing them towards the character of Jesus. If that isn't part of your life, we know that there are still admirable character traits that everyone desires for their children, whether they are coming at that from a faith standpoint or not. And we just really want everyone to feel welcome and know that that is going to be kind of an angle that we just sort of naturally take. But at no point do we ever want to feel like we are forcing that viewpoint in any of our episodes.
Sure. I highly doubt that we will be doing a whole lot of direct references to that.
No scripture quoting, probably.
But, I mean, hey, I make no promises. Like, it might come up at times. And because it's just part of who we are, just like you would quote like anyone that you admire or respect. But we want this to not be a preachy context, and we want it to be a context where you can feel safe and that we're with you and we see you no matter what your lens in that realm is. But I will say, if you resonate with us in that way, I have a feeling that you'll really resonate with the angle that we're approaching all of this through.
Yeah, character development is important to every parent and how they're raising their children. And that really is what we hope shines through the most in our episodes.
Absolutely. And I will just say, like, I haven't found a better context for my kids to be shaped than competitive dance.
Agree.
Which is wild. And
never would have guessed that when we started.
I'm saying no other context. Like, I lead a children's ministry. Like, my children sit around in conversations, in Bible studies, but there is a way that you can fake it when you're in those types of settings. Yes. But when you are tired and some friend of yours is not treating you the way you want them to treat you, and you are both trying to do a hard thing and you're trying to work together, but you're mad at each other, and we get to sit down and talk about shaping our character to be like Jesus.
It's real life application of Absolutely. The things that they are learning in the church environment.
Absolutely. So this conversation we just had, that's about as close to a faith conversation as you're probably going to hear from us. But it is there and is present, and it will thread itself in at times and just be kind of in the background. But our episodes going forward are going to have a number of different categories. We are both sort of organizers, and so we've developed a little bit of a cycle and a rhythm of what these will look like. So some will be very niche specific to dance. So if you are not in the dance world, or you're just jumping into the dance world, they might kind of educate you a little bit on the ways of that. Some of them are going to be speaking to the hearts of parents who are trying to navigate difficult things. Some of them are going to be around a specific character trait that we're trying to build in our kids. We hope to have some special guests as well. And we'll sprinkle some fun things, just bonus things in there too. But we will try to label things really well so you'll know kind of what you're getting into, if there's certain types of episodes that you resonate with more than others. And hope that you'll enjoy all of them, of course.
Yes. So ultimately, we just want everyone who listens to feel seen and know that we are in this with you. in the thick of this parenting thing, no matter what age your kids are. So whether you're the parent of a dancer like we are, or if you have a kid in another competitive context, or maybe you're not a parent at all and you just really care about kids in a way that you want to be part of shaping their character. Maybe you're a teacher in some way. We just really want to be in with you and offer whatever little nuggets of wisdom that we have as we have talked through and learned some of these things.
Yes. So next episode, we are going to be diving into how to know if you're ready to jump into a competitive activity. Particularly, of course, we'll use dance. So how to know if you're ready for competition dance or whatever other thing that you're going to be doing. And we're going to look at it from different phases of childhood, how you would make that decision depending on the age of your child. This is another category that we really care about and really feel like we know some things about. And it's just like how different stages of childhood need different things. And so that'll be kind of one of those types of episodes.
I'm really excited about this one. This one gets me very jazzed to talk about.
Yes. So, but before we do that, we need to close out with our usual question.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this time first, Beth.
Okay.
So if it's not really about dance, what is it really about for you this week?
Okay. So if you are listening to this episode when it is posted, then I'm actually at Disney World. Yes.
Jealous.
With my family and also my brother that I really love. He lives across the country and I don't get to see him a whole ton. And my family are big Disney people, but they have like come along with us a few times, but it's not frequent. And I have these two little nephews that I love. And the last time they went to Disney with us, they were like 3 and 5. And now they are 7 and 9.
It's a really different experience.
Yes. And
fun.
I'm really pumped. My brother tried to talk us into all doing like matching t-shirts for the entire week.
No.
And that eventually got shot down for a number of reasons. But anyway, I think my favorite part of this whole thing is, so my 9-year-old nephew, when we went when he was 5, he was just very into like, I want to do another fast ride. Where are the fast rides? Like every time we went to go walk through something that was just a little more educational or even a ride that moved on the slower end.
Not feeling it.
Right. He said, but I want to do a fast ride. So I asked them, because I'm the planner, because we do Disney a lot in my family. Like I asked them to send me what their like top attractions they wanted to do were, because I was starting to make some plans for us. And my nephew, who's 9, you will never in a million years guess what attraction was his top attraction for Epcot. Like, I want you to try and guess. Take 2 guesses. 9-year-old boy.
And he was really into the fast rides last time.
Yes.
I'm going to say my first guess is Guardians.
Definitely not that.
Okay. The way you're presenting this makes me think I'm going to be surprised. Is it my favorite, Living with the Land?
It is not, but listen to what it is. It is the Chinese lion dancer. So
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I am having to, I need to research and find out, which hopefully if you're listening to this, I'm already there and I've already figured this out. But before we leave, I've got to figure out what are the times that the Chinese lion dancer even performs. But I'm also so into the fact that this little guy is here for this stop and smell the roses stuff of Disney with me, because this is my
He is a Disney kid now. If that is what he is looking forward to the most, he's officially a Disney kid.
I know. He also said he wants to visit every single country at Epcot.
Yes.
I said done and done.
Get a snack.
Done. There's a festival going on. So this is what it's really about for me right now.
That is awesome.
What about you, Sarah? What's it really about for you?
Okay, well, again, this will be long in the past by the time this is posted, but it has been about Halloween costumes for me lately. Figuring that out, I have my younger daughter likes to trick or treat with a friend, and that friend's whole family dresses up. Like all of them, mom, dad, everything. They have a theme together every year. My husband and I are not big, like, we're not really costume people, Halloween costume people at all. So she loves that their family does this. And she has managed to like weasel her way into their family theme costume. And so they are all doing Barbie, and she is trying to convince my husband and I to also dress up as Barbie, specifically getting my husband to be Mojo Dojo Casa House Ken, which I don't know if you remember, but that involves wearing no shirt and a fur coat. And I just don't think he's gonna go for it.
This needs to go on the Not Really About Dance Instagram. If this happens in real life, we need to share this.
I'd say there's a less than 1% chance that this actually goes down. But if you know me in real life and you know my younger daughter, you will not at all be surprised that, well, I'm going to let you guess, Beth, which Barbie do you think she's going as?
So it's got to be some kind of like, if there was a dark and creepy option, that's what I would go with. I don't know that they make Barbies like that are dark and creepy, because she's definitely into the weird contemporary dances. Like this is her vibe.
For sure. Oh, you've said the word already.
Creepy Barbie.
She's weird Barbie.
Oh, like from the movie.
Yes, from the movie.
Yes.
In fact, her costume, her dress came in the mail a couple of days ago, and you and I were working on podcast stuff, and I got home, and she greeted me at the door in her dress with one leg up on the wall, like in a full Barbie split. And she had already memorized that part of the scene from the movie saying like, "I'm weird Barbie. Welcome to my weirdness." It was, so now
this is a brilliant Halloween costume.
It is. So we're going to like draw on her face with some face paint, like a kid scribbled on her. I got to figure out the hair situation, you know, because it looks like a little girl cut her hair all short. We have an old wig from when she was Constance Hatchaway from the Haunted Mansion a couple of years ago. So I'm hoping that I can just repurpose that wig to be the weird Barbie wig and not invest a small fortune in Barbie accessories for one Halloween costume.
Your dance mom hair, wig, makeup skills are getting put to good use.
I feel kind of confident that I can make this happen. So that is what it is about for me. All right, everyone. We hope that you have a great week, and we will see you next time on It's Not Really About Dance. Bye.